In 2012, Sleeping Dogs launched. Every major publication compared it to GTA 4. Not one of them asked what Wei Shen was actually losing while he was performing the role of a triad enforcer. That one missing question, the one nobody bothered to ask, is why this video exists. This is episode 1 of the questions nobody asked. 10 open-world games. 10 arguments that never got made, because the benchmarks arrived before anyone stopped to think. The problem with most open-world games isn't the games, it's the frame we use to approach them. Sleeping Dogs became worse GTA. Days Gone became lesser Last of Us. Mad Max became empty wasteland. None of those comparisons asked what these games were actually doing. They just measured the wrong thing, with the wrong ruler. The voice you're hearing is AI generated. The research, the writing, the argument, that's human. Let's get into it. The Technomancer launched in 2016 from a small French studio. It sold poorly. Reviews called it clunky, unfinished, forgettable. And if you arrived expecting a polished RPG, which is exactly what the marketing suggested, that's precisely what you got. But here's the thing nobody mentioned. The Technomancer wasn't trying to compete with The Witcher. It was built around a specific question about survival on a dying planet where corporations control water and therefore control people. The combat wasn't clunky because the developers couldn't code. It was clunky because you were supposed to feel like someone who learned to fight out of desperation, not out of training. The game put you in a world that had already decided your value. You weren't the hero. You were a problem the system hadn't solved yet. That's a completely different argument than is the combat satisfying. But nobody was asking about the argument. They were asking about the combat. And once you're locked into that question, the game becomes unplayable. Now, next game from a small studio with zero mainstream visibility had a different problem entirely. It didn't hide what it was doing, it just refused to explain it. ELEX 2 drops you into a post-apocalyptic world with 3 factions, a fractured alliance system, and an opening that gives you almost nothing to hold on to. No waypoints pointing you to the next objective. No tutorial explaining the politics. You were expected to figure out who to trust by actually talking to people, reading between the lines, and sometimes getting it badly wrong. Most players quit within the first 3 hours. What nobody wrote about, not in any major review, is that the discomfort in those 3 hours was the game's thesis. ELEX 2 was asking whether you could exist in a world that didn't owe you an explanation. A world that had been running fine without you and wasn't about to adjust its behavior just because you showed up. The game made indifference feel real. But what about when the world isn't just indifferent? What about when the emptiness isn't philosophical? It's political. The Saboteur came out in 2009. Nazi-occupied Paris. A charismatic Irish protagonist, and a black and white visual style that bled back into color when you liberated an area from German control. Every review focused on the mechanics. Was the stealth good? Was the driving fun? Nobody asked why Paris was black and white. The color mechanic wasn't style, it was argument. The game was showing you what occupation actually does to a place. It drains the life out of it. The jazz clubs still exist. The cafes are still open. But all of it is gray, muted, performing normalcy under surveillance. When you blow up a Nazi installation, color bleeds back into that neighborhood. The game was asking, what does resistance actually look like when it's not heroic, when it's just restoring color to a street corner? But the Saboteur made the world gray on you. Next game made you gray on purpose, and players hated it even more.
This war has caused.
We won't get another chance to break out.
Spirit is also a casualty during war.
There is no turning back now.
May he find peace in the next world.
Here's to you, brother.
I'm just getting started.
Kingdom Come launched in 2018. Half the discourse was about bugs. The other half was about how punishingly hard it was. Neither was really the point. The game places you as Henry, a blacksmith's son. Not a warrior, not a chosen one. Just a kid whose village gets burned and who spends the opening hours being humiliated, beaten up, and dismissed by people who have actual skills. I played 2 hours and quit. The controls felt difficult. The game wasn't my type. That reaction, that specific frustration, is exactly what Kingdom Come was engineering. The insight nobody talks about. Kingdom Come was asking whether you actually wanted to earn your character, not just play one. The literacy mechanic, where Henry literally cannot read until you teach him, isn't a frustrating tutorial system. It's the game saying, in this world, knowledge is power that is kept from people like you. You start ignorant because you were supposed to start ignorant. The game wasn't broken. It was honest about exactly where a blacksmith's son would stand in medieval society. But if Kingdom Come trapped you at the bottom of a hierarchy, the next game on the list put you at the top of one, and quietly showed you what that costs. Arkham Origins is the forgotten entry in the Arkham series. Most people skip it or treat it as a bridge game. That framing isn't entirely wrong, but it's incomplete. The game is set early in Batman's career. He isn't the Dark Knight yet. He's a man in a suit making decisions he doesn't fully understand yet. The main story, specifically the relationship between Batman and the Joker, is actually the strongest character writing in the entire Arkham trilogy.
Where's Black Mask?
Let me go!
If you insist.
The problem is that it's buried under an open world twice the size it needed to be. Arkham Origins accidentally became a case study in what happens when a strong, contained story is forced to justify a large open-world budget. Every side mission diluted the urgency of a story about a man confronting the first great crisis of who he was becoming. The map didn't enhance the stakes, it scattered them. The question nobody asked: why do we keep demanding more space when the story needed less? It's the opposite problem with number 5. That game wasn't stretched too wide. It went in the opposite direction, and got punished for it just as hard. Shenmue is one of the most important games ever made. It's also one of the most consistently misread. When it launched in 1999, it was the most expensive game ever produced. Reviews called it revolutionary, but also slow. The days had schedules. Shops opened and closed at real times. You could examine every object in Rio's room individually. Most players didn't know what to do with that level of detail, so they called it boring. But slowness wasn't a design failure. Slowness was the point. The game was asking what grief feels like as a lived experience, not as a cutscene, not as a narrative device, as weeks of routine, interrupted occasionally by a moment that brings everything back. Rio wakes up every day, goes through the motions, asks the same questions, waits. That's the most honest depiction of someone processing loss that gaming had produced up to that point. But while Shenmue asked you to sit inside loss quietly, next game asked you to build something and then made sure you understood what you'd actually built. Shadow of War launched in 2017. The microtransaction controversy consumed almost all the discussion, which is genuinely unfortunate, because underneath that controversy was the most morally uncomfortable mechanic in any Tolkien adaptation ever made. The Nemesis system lets you build an army of dominated orcs, customize them, assign them to fortresses, watch them develop personalities. It is genuinely impressive, and that is exactly the problem. The game makes dominating orcs feel good. You're building loyalty through fear, through repeated subjugation, through systematically breaking wills. The narrative is trying to tell a story about Talion slowly losing himself to the ring's power, becoming the very kind of warlord he set out to destroy. But the gameplay is designed to make that transformation satisfying, even pleasurable. The question nobody asked, in any major review, is this: what does it mean that we enjoyed that? The game wasn't flawed because of the microtransactions. It was uncomfortable because it worked exactly as intended. But while Shadow of War made you complicit in something and called it strategy, Days Gone did something quieter. It hid the loss inside the mechanics and never once announced it was there. Days Gone came out in 2019. Reviews called it competent but derivative, a zombie game that arrived too late to a genre that already felt crowded. A lesser Last of Us. None of that is inaccurate, but none of it is the point either. The game's emotional center isn't the freaker hordes. It isn't the story missions. It's the bike. Specifically, the fact that the bike runs out of fuel, breaks down in the rain, requires constant maintenance, and is the only thing between Deacon and complete isolation in a dead world. The game forces you to care about an object, to plan around it, to feel the specific, low-level anxiety of watching a fuel gauge drop 30 miles from the nearest can. That's grief encoded into a mechanic. Deacon lost his wife before the apocalypse began. He doesn't know how to sit with that. So he rides. He maintains the bike. He keeps moving, because stopping would mean sitting with it.
Folks here in a lot of pain, Deke.
The game wasn't asking whether its zombie apocalypse story was original. It was asking whether you could feel someone's avoidance of grief through how you played. Most reviewers never slowed down long enough to notice. If you're still here, subscribe. We're going into the top 2 now. And these are the games where the questions get genuinely uncomfortable. The Mad Max, the 2015 game, is probably the most defensible game on this list to call empty. The open world is enormous. The settlements are sparse. The story is deliberately thin. The side content is repetitive by design. That last part is where everyone stopped reading. But the wasteland in Mad Max isn't a setting that needs to be filled. It's a condition. The game keeps returning to one question. What do you do when everything that gave life structure has already been destroyed? And the answer it keeps giving you is, you build the car. You upgrade the engine. You find the next job. Max isn't searching for meaning. He knows meaning is gone. He's trying to find a reason to get through the next canyon.
Someone tell me, what is the soul of a man?
Before this, we were...
Mad Max is a game about maintenance as purpose, about doing the next necessary thing because stopping is the only alternative. The emptiness of the wasteland isn't a production limitation. It's an argument about what remains when civilization removes itself. The wrong question was, is there enough to do? The right question was, what does it feel like when doing enough is the entire goal? But Max had nothing left to hold on to and built a life out of that nothing. Wei Shen had the opposite problem. He had too many things to hold on to, and every single one of them was pulling him in a different direction. Every review of Sleeping Dogs in 2012 asked some version of the same question. Is it a good GTA? The answer was usually a qualified yes. Good enough. Worth playing if you've exhausted Rockstar's catalog. That comparison did more damage than a bad review ever could. Sleeping Dogs isn't a crime game. It's an identity game. Wei Shen is an undercover cop embedded in Hong Kong's triad culture so deeply that the line between performance and reality has stopped existing. He follows orders from the police. He earns loyalty from the triads. He honors obligations to childhood friends who don't know which version of him is the real one. Here's the thing nobody wrote about. The game never tells you which version is real either.
Whatever it takes.
Our brotherhood pays our enemies with pain, suffering, and death.
The mechanics reinforce it. Your cop experience unlocks through police missions. Your triad experience unlocks through gang work. Your face experience, the social currency of Hong Kong, unlocks through helping strangers. 3 separate progression systems. 3 separate versions of the same man. And the game asks you to manage all 3 simultaneously, without ever suggesting that one of them is the true Wei Shen. The moment most players remember is the undercover revelation, where someone Wei Shen trusted discovers he's a cop. The emotional weight of that scene works entirely because of what the game built before it. It works because you built it. You made the friendships. You accepted the loyalty. You were the one managing the performance. The question nobody asked, in 2012 or since, is this. What does it actually do to a person to perform loyalty for long enough that they can no longer locate where the performance ends? That was never a GTA question. 10 games. 10 arguments that never got made because the benchmarks arrived before anyone stopped to think. Sleeping Dogs became a GTA comparison. Days Gone became a zombie game. Mad Max became a map full of nothing. Kingdom Come became a difficulty complaint. And in each case, the frame made the experience impossible to have. Episode 2 is next week. The pattern hiding inside all 10 of these games. And it's not what you think. It's not about open worlds at all. Drop a comment. Which of these did you play with the wrong question in your head? I want to know which one just landed differently. See you next week.